Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
Tristram has called from Haringey. Hello, Tristram.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Who's your extreme?
Well, I was actually going to make a point, but it sounds like I'm probably going to agree with a lot of what your previous caller was just saying. JJ, you've only got to look at history to look at some real extremists on political views. And on the right, you know, you've got the antithesis of that, which is say Hitler. And then in recent times, you've got people like Pinochet, although without the murder. And on the left, you have those, you know, the poster boy child of people like John McDonnell, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot. Those are true extremists. And I would say on the right of our political spectrum at the moment, nobody gets even remotely close to Hitler. Whereas there are elements of the Labour Party at the moment who not only are getting very close to those left extremes, but positively espouse many of us. Well,
I mean, in a sense, apart from the Pol Pots and the Stalins, that, you know, that list you gave, you know, nobody comes close to any of those, do they? I mean, to compare any modern day British politician with anything like that is bonkers.
This is the thing. Not so much in what they actually executed as quite literally, but also figuratively, but in terms of their political policies.
Okay, well, Tristram, I'm going to leave it there if I may. Let's hear from Caelan, first of all, though, in Hitchin, who wants to carry on our conversation about Haiti and our widespread disapproval of Oxfam in Haiti, and yet perhaps less so here in the UK. Are we guilty of a bit of a double standard here, Caelan?
Yes, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy, both on the side of the charity who fired those people instantly, trying to show themselves whiter than white, on the side of the government, and many of the British donors, whether public or individuals. At the end of the day, the right to sex is a human right. It's the most important, most essential human right. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist. Now, those people go out in the field to help other people. It's not a comfortable thing. Those people who donate £10 or £15, I think, okay, that's done. Maybe they should go out and find out what it's like. And then see the pressure, the stress that people have to live under. And in case people don't know, sex is great for stress relief and for improving one's life.
Oh,
now,
my goodness.
The fact is...
Caelan, are you saying, okay, you clearly think...
Can I just finish the point, please? And then you can... would that be okay?
Of course.
Okay. Now, if they were to try to approach... Go on. Yes, okay. If they were to approach a colleague for sex, they'll be accused of harassment and all sorts of things, because now men cannot approach a colleague because, hey, it's harassment and it's unwanted approach and interest. So the fact that they use prostitutes, which existed, they did not create the prostitution. That prostitution exists, and there are so many women who are very poor and have to do that because the local government corruption and because of all this stock market speculation, putting lots of money into the pockets of too rich, that means so many people are very, very poor.
But Caelan, one of Oxfam's, now I'm going to come in now, one of Oxfam's central reasons for being there in the first place was to break up that damaging, exploitative status quo by helping the people, and as I said earlier, restoring their dignity. To then engage in that status quo of exploitation and harm is the opposite of what Oxfam and other aid agencies are meant to be doing there. As for the right to sex, approaching a colleague for sex is the language you use. Now, if somebody says to you as a colleague, sex is a right, I need some sex, can I have some sex? That's harassment, Caelan. However you like to dress it up, that's harassment. However, forming a relationship with somebody who you work with and having sex with them is not harassment. They're different things. Paying someone for sex, hang on, but you had your say, paying someone for sex when your job explicitly is to help restore their dignity is not on.
Well, I don't know if they have anything in their contract about not paying anybody for sex. I mean, even in the UK, prostitution is legal. So I don't know what their job says. But I think if we want to address things on dignity, our government needs to work with those governments, stop the corruption, make sure that those women and those people have a better standard of living and a better chance of putting food on their children's table.
I agree, and wouldn't it be awful nice if the aid agency supported them in that? Thank you, who take a lot of their money. Thank you, Cailin in Hitchin. Goodness me, there's been some quite shocking views. Shocking views to me anyway this hour. Kevin in Bingham, hi.
Hello, hi. I mean, my point of view on this, I think it actually, sometimes it beggars belief what we hear through the press, through the news reports. And, you know, there has to be times where the public expect that the government steps in. I mean, when you listen to the levels of justice that are actually issued for some of these absolute horrendous things that we listen to on the news reports, you know, it's as though we are incapable of making and protecting society against such evil rats of human population, you know. And I don't understand why we constantly bring in a nanny state approach. We can do this, we can't do that. I mean, there's got to be a red line where the public expects that the state will step in, the state will get the justice system gripped and really sort these things out and start kicking them off one at a time. Because all we hear, from my point of view, is every single reason as what we should do, can't do, can do, and there needs to be more progression as a deterrent. There are very, very few deterrents I see in society nowadays for this level of issues.
I know, and I'm still on the no to forced sterilisation side, but I know that many of the callers aren't today because it just feels a step too far for me. But taking somebody's child away from them at the very beginning of that child's life, so, you know, literally at the end of the labour, taking the child away from them, is the best we've got. Kevin, you say it's not enough.
But then, but you know, when you listen to the different authorities about the impact on the baby in the womb, it's not just when they're delivered. You know, there can be a significant impact on a unborn child in the womb
because of drugs.
Well, it can be drugs, it can be lifestyle, it can be family argument, anything. You know, that baby is within that womb, and if you've ever gone through any discussions, which I assume you have on the station, about adoption, and they talk about the life before delivery of the baby. So it's not just waiting for the baby to be delivered, it's the impact that the baby can have before they're delivered.
Yes, but gosh, so this is like Minority Report. So you say we pick off undesirable parents or pre-parents before they've even conceived and stop them from conceiving.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
It's like you used the word feral earlier, and unless we start to get a grip of the it's a rampage of feral activities, feral parents, feral children. You know, society is just going in a direction where there are very little controls, there are no deterrents, you've got a justice system that just doesn't have the guts to deliver what is required to protect society.
OK, Kevin, thank you. Wow, Kevin in Bingham. Actually sterilise people before they've had children for what they might do to them. You won't get me to agree to that, Kevin.
Let's go back to your calls on Brexit, the transitional period, and do you feel betrayed by the fact that Brexit seems to be taking an inordinately long time? Or does it? Frankie's in Ladbroke Grove. Hello, Frankie.
Hello, Ian. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. What would you like to say?
Ian, look, I've got to tell you, and this is nothing to do with no reflection on anyone other than the fact that we would be better off getting Coco the Clown to do our negotiations, because I am disgusted at the way that this woman is performing. I've got to tell you, it's embarrassing.
In what way?
Well, look, I mean, simple things like she uses deliberate words like transition and implementation. That alone makes me suspicious because they're two separate words entirely. What is it? An implementation? Transition means that you're going to gently proceed forward, or words to that effect. It doesn't give me great confidence in the way that she's acting. I mean, It's just acting like a crafty traitor. That's all she is. She's just a crafty traitor because she's doing it gently and she thinks we're idiots. I'm not saying...
Using words like traitor, I don't think really help anybody. She hasn't got a parliamentary majority. She's restricted in what she can do. Do you actually not think she even wants to do Brexit? I mean, obviously we know she voted Remain initially.
Iain, her heart is definitely not in it. And you can see that by the woman's face. Look, I've got to tell you, I've got nothing against the woman's personality in any way, shape, or form. But no, but honestly, Iain, if I was her husband, I would be saying to her, look, love, enough's enough. Get out while you're in front of the game. Go and have a nice cup of tea and sit down and do something else, because this is not for you. She's a bag of nerves. Look, listen, I've got a bit of problems health-wise, type 2 diabetes. She's got type 1. That can't be good for you. All the pressure.
I think she's pretty... look, she's been in the job for 18 months. I don't think that has any effect on how she does the job at all. I've got type 2 diabetes. Does that affect the way I do this programme? I don't think so. Well, let's talk to Masood Khawaja, who's Director of Halal Consultations. Masood, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Good evening.
I've set out my stall there. I suspect you disagree with virtually everything I've said, but do you not accept that there are certain animal hygiene concerns, given the statistics about the failed inspections in slaughterhouses?
No, for a number of years, I have been a proponent of saying that we should not mix stunning with animal welfare, because over 50 years ago when I came to England, there was no stunning here at all. So let's not say that. With the expediency of the machinery, we have got now time to do a more number in slaughtering as such in there. So let's be careful about what we say, because the religion, the Jewish religion and the Muslim religion says that animals should not die prior to slaughter. So this is one of the reasons that halal consultations has resolved one thing after a lot of experimentation and everything else in there, that if the animal doesn't die and the official veterinary officer would say the animal is not dying, so we can use the minuscule kind of stunning, electric stunning, and actually do the slaughtering. But when it is said that it is pain this way and pain that way, and I can see here that it is said that Mr. George Eustace, the current farming minister, I've known so many ministers in my 25 years time doing the halal authentication and everything. You see, the thing is, what we got to understand is this: religion has to be accepted. I know, Iain, what you're saying yourself, that you think the animal are feeling pain.
Well, they clearly are. That's beyond dispute. That is beyond dispute. If you slit an animal's throat, it feels pain.
Right, true, but if you stun the animal, do you not realize that when you stun the animal, if you get the electric shock yourself, Iain, would you not be feeling pain first, and then someone try to slit the finger? No, that is not the case. The case is this, that here we have to be, and in Islam there are reams of books are written there about animal welfare. Stunning is not the question. The question is this: when you cut your own hand by a paper itself, you see after about 15 seconds you feel the pain because of the oxidization of that particular wound as such.
Sorry, are you seriously trying to tell me? Are you seriously trying to tell me that if you slit a sheep's throat, it doesn't feel any pain?
It does feel the pain. I'm not saying it doesn't. Of course.
What are you saying then?
Because you are, but you see, but in the Islamic religion and the Jewish axiom, we are allowed to eat animals. So are you. So we have to be doing what is necessary to be done to make them dead as such, not to be dying before they are actually sort of blessed in the name of Allah in the Islamic way.
Goodness me, we live in the 21st century, not the Dark Ages. I mean,
let's not belittle the religion.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to belittle any religion that wants to inflict pain on innocent animals, and that is what your religion does, and it's what the Jewish religion does.
I've heard you yesterday about circumcision as well. It is not the case. Your listeners must be making a choice of that to say. What I'm trying to say is this, that halal consultation has, after all the deliberation and everything else there, decided if the official veterinary surgeon would verify with the slightest stunning the animal is not dying, then we will concur with it. I am saying that, but I don't really understand
what you mean by that. Stay there, Masood, because I'm going to bring in John Fishwick into the conversation, President of the British Veterinary Association. Sure. John, tell me what you make of what you've heard from Masood there, because I didn't quite understand where he was going with that.
Well, hello. I should start by saying that the British Veterinary Association, we represent veterinary surgeons, and of course animal welfare is of paramount importance to us. So this for us is all about animal welfare, the well-being of animals. It's nothing to do with religion from our point of view, and we have great respect for everybody's own religious beliefs. And I think what we're talking about here is stuns or non-stun. So stun is a process by which the animal is made insensible to pain and unconscious instantaneously, either by a ballistic device, so a bullet, or electric shock across the brain. This makes the animal immediately unconscious, and then its throat is cut and it bleeds to death, putting it crudely. Now, when we have non-stun slaughter, that's when the throat is cut without anything to stun the animal first. And we believe, and there's a lot of evidence to show, that that animal will experience pain. There's pain from the cut itself. They will often inhale blood, and that can be very distressing. And we know that depending on the species of animals and the individual, it can take anything from about 20 seconds up to about 90 seconds or 2 minutes for a cow to die. And we don't think that's acceptable. So we very strongly advocate stun slaughter, and we oppose non-stun slaughter, regardless of who's doing it. The law says that all animals have to be stunned in an abattoir, and that law also is reflected in the EU legislation. But there is a derogation, in other words, an exception for certain cultural or religious groups, and that's something that the government respects and allows to happen. But we are totally opposed to non-stun slaughter on animal welfare grounds.
So Masood, do you think it is acceptable for a cow to take 2.5 minutes to die after having its throat slit?
Well, I mean, this is what our friend is saying, that that's how long it takes. Let me put our side to it. That I'm saying is this, that because of the expediency of machinery, we have to do stunning, no doubt. If you go to any slaughterhouse of ours where the chicken is slaughtered, we say if you do the water bath, in a sense to say that the bird are not going to die, the same way for the ovine one, that they're not going to die prior to slaughter, because we have to believe in Quran, which says that thou shalt not eat dead, thou shalt not eat flowing blood. So if we can have the assurance that with the slightest stunning or the lightest stunning, the animal and the bird are not going to die, and all the flowing blood would be drained out, then we will say yes. And Halal consultation has agreed to it. All I've been saying.
Why is it?
Then we can.
Why is it that?
Can I finish a little bit? Because so that your listeners and you yourself will be understanding the way you think. But I know there are researches going on for the science all the time. But what I'm saying is, if we do slight stunning and the OVS can say the bird and animal are not dying prior to slaughter, all the flowing blood is drained out. I am a proponent of this. I have been on record on this at the Food Standard Agency here as well.
So why is it? Why is it that more than 50% of halal slaughterhouses fail hygiene inspections? 65% of them have major hygiene issues. People who run these slaughterhouses should be ashamed, shouldn't they?
No, yes, you have brought another thing in there, that hygiene has nothing to do with the stunning of the animal at the time.
I'm sorry, you can't just dismiss it like that. Do you not accept these are official statistics? These slaughterhouses should be ashamed of themselves. And they should actually be shut
taken
down.
With the owner of the slaughterhouses, because there's a department in Food Standard Agency which goes down and does the inspection of that. We are talking about stunning at the moment. We are talking about...
No, I'm talking about stunning, and I'm talking about hygiene, and you don't seem to want to talk about hygiene, and I wonder why that is.
No. I'm not saying that we don't want to.
Well, I'm giving you the opportunity to, but you seem to think that it's acceptable.
There is a verse in there. There is a saying of the Prophet to say that hygiene.
Do you know? I don't care, Masood. I don't care what the Prophet says about this. I really don't. I care what the animal suffers, and you seem to be happy in the 21st century to allow animals to suffer. I don't care what your Prophet says about it.
I don't think you got it. Masood Khawaja is saying to you clearly, if your OVS in the slaughterhouse, who is in charge of all that, in charge of hygiene as well, by the way, if he can assure me in there before I issue authentication of certificate of halal that the animal has not died prior to slaughter and all the flowing blood has been drained out, then I'm concurring with it. I don't think you're getting that.
Well, no, I'm not getting it at all. But I don't understand how an intelligent person can even defend this barbaric practice. Masood Khawaja, thank you very much, founder of Halal Consultations, and John Fishwick, president of the British Veterinary Association. We're talking about the fact that the NFU have warned that the rise in religious slaughter risks jeopardising Britain's reputation for high animal welfare standards. I think it does on a number of counts, not least the fact if we just forget the fact that these animals have their throats slit and feel a lot of pain, the fact that there's slaughterhouses that this takes place in, more than 50% of them fail their hygiene inspections. 64% of them have major hygiene issues. Now, if that doesn't worry people, I don't know what does. I couldn't believe our previous guest when it just seemed to be water off a duck's back. As you can tell, my dander is well and truly up on this. 0345 6060 973. Edward is in Morden. Hello, Edward.
Hello, Iain.
Hi, what would you like to say?
I think you're being a bit too pugnacious about this.
Am I?
You know? Yes, you are. Because if we're going to have a grown-up discussion about an issue, and I agree it's an issue, let's have a grown-up... There's no point in ranting at people. You're just having a rant at the present moment. You need to calm yourself down. We need to have a discussion about how we can improve on the standards, and that's the only way we're going to deal with it. All this grandstanding doesn't help.
It's not grandstanding. I feel very passionately about this.
Sorry, and so do I. But, you know, you're in a position of responsibility, and we need to have a discussion about this issue.
Okay. What's your view?
Okay, my view is we need to have a discussion and we need to find a compromise.
All right, well, what's the compromise then?
Hold on. I don't have the answers. Neither do you.
I do.
Because you're just
I do. I want to ban it. That's my answer.
You want to ban it? So,
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's ban it for everybody then.
I agree.
Let's say, okay, we won't kill animals anymore. We'll all go vegan.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay, what are you saying?
I'm saying if you are going to kill animals, and we are as a race, we are, most of us, meat eaters, so therefore animals do have to be slaughtered. There are ways of doing it that are more humane than doing it in the way that these halal and kosher slaughterhouses do. That's what I'm saying.
I hear you. Okay, I have a question. Have we got cultural issues we need to take into consideration here?
No.
Oh, you're saying they're none?
No, there aren't. Well, it's all about animal welfare, in my view.
Well, you're not being fair on yourself, really, having this discussion.
Why?
Yes, you know there are cultural allowances to be taken into consideration.
No, I don't accept that there are cultural allowances, just as I didn't accept yesterday when we had the discussion about male circumcision. To me, it is a barbaric practice that should be stopped, unless it's for medical reasons.
And it's words like that do not help the situation.
Well,
do not help the situation.
Can you not allow me to choose my own words? You can feel free to disagree with them.
Yes, because you're just loading up here. You know, you're in a position of responsibility. Let's have a balanced discussion about the issue and come to some...
But I'm asking you for your views, and all you can tell me is you think there should be some sort of wishy-washy compromise. You aren't actually telling me what you think should happen.
Well, I just told you what could happen. If we're going to go along the lines which you're going now, we're basically saying, okay, fair enough, yeah, we won't slaughter any animals anymore, and we'll all go vegan. If that's the way we want to go, if that's the way the human race wants to go, fair enough, let's do that. You get me?
Well, and you talk about me being extreme in my reaction.
Well, because basically you're just stoking up fires here that, rather than trying to resolve issues.
I'm not. I am giving you my absolutely long-held personal view that halal and kosher slaughter is barbaric and should be stopped in this country. Now, I accept that a lot of people are going to disagree with me. If you are Jewish or a Muslim, you are inevitably going to disagree with me more than anybody else. I completely get that. That doesn't mean to say that I don't have the right to hold that view. Edward, thank you. Let's go to Hussein, who's also in St Albans. Hello, Hussein.
Oh, hi there. I'd just like to know what your problem is with halal slaughter.
Do you really have to ask that? I think I've explained it quite well over the last half an hour.
You have, but you haven't explained it very well, because when the vessel of the neck is slit, it disconnects the nerve that reciprocates pain to the brain.
No, it doesn't.
The animal, yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. Do you know? Am I going to believe you, or am I going to believe the European Food Safety Authority, who tell me that it takes 2.5 minutes for a chicken to die, 2 minutes for a cow to die, 20 seconds for a sheep to lose consciousness once its throat has been split? Who am I going to believe, Hussein? You or them?
That's correct, but you're not going to let me explain, are you?
No, go on.
Okay. What you're referring to, the 2.5 minutes, is where the animal shakes, kicks, writhers around and struggles. That's not due to pain.
Oh, really?
It's due to the contraction and relaxation of the muscles that are deficient in blood, and due to the flow of blood going out of the body into the muscles.
So they don't feel any pain at all?
No, because once again, when the knife...
If I slit your throat, Hussein, do you think you might feel a bit of pain?
You're not listening, are you?
I am listening.
When the throat is slit, the nerve that carries the pain to the brain is severed. Yeah? So the animal is no longer feeling pain. What you're visually seeing is the animal squirming. That's because the blood is now not reaching the muscles, and therefore the muscles are twitching. Yeah? So it's very deceptive. What you see and what is actually going on is different. In the same way, the lion or the jaguar or the leopard or the tiger goes for the throat in Africa. Yeah, you've probably seen on YouTube.
Yeah. And you think you think the animals that are killed by the lion, they're not in any pain at all?
No, because once again, the nerves get severed.
I don't know who's been indoctrinating you with this, but if the British Veterinary Association...
who's been indoctrinating you?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Because your perception...
I'll tell you.
Your perception... Right, it'd be interesting to get a doctor on who would explain.
Well, we just did actually. We had the head. We had someone from the British Veterinary Association. You don't believe anyone from the British Veterinary Association, do you?
No. Listen, you're not listening to me.
No, because you keep talking. That's why.
He spoke about stunning. What I want to know from a professional out there, and there's millions listening, is when the throat is cut, are the nerves which carry pain to the brain also severed or not?
If you think that an animal who has its throat slit does not feel any pain, you are deluding yourself as well as everybody else listening to this programme. Hussein, thank you. Den is in Nantwich. Hello, Den.
Hi there.
What would you like to say?
Well, I had to phone in listening to your conversation. I think it was with a guy called Hussein. I didn't get to hear all of it, but I heard enough that I thought if somebody doesn't phone in to make this clear for the general public, it's going to be a problem. I'm a veterinary surgeon, I'm a cattle vet. I've been a cattle vet for 25 years. And his description of the nerves running up the side of the vessels to inform the brain about pain are simply incorrect. So obviously the spinal cord, it contains all the nervous connection between the brain and the rest of the body. So if you beheaded the animal, yes. If you beheaded it like immediately, if you like, then yes, clearly there's no blood supply to the head anymore. Immediately it stopped, and then therefore the brain would die pretty quickly. I think that's what he was trying to allude to. The idea of the halal slaughter is to try and cut off the blood supply to the head. In all fairness, unfortunately, there's quite a lot of cases where they don't cut all of the vessels that supply the head, and so the brain continues to be perfused, and some of the vessels can't be reached. just by cutting through the soft tissues because they run within the bony part of the spinal column. And then his other description of the animal thrashing and moving its limbs, he claimed was to do with blood leaving the limbs, which is not true. To be fair to him, if you beheaded an animal, as you might have seen with chickens and ducks or whatever, they will run around. The nerves will still work, but the animal won't necessarily feel pain. But I just thought we need to clear this up because this is the problem that we've got. If people like him believe that, and he's learned that from his religious teaching, then it needs straightening out.
Well, I really am very grateful to you for phoning in, because obviously when someone makes those assertions very confidently, I'm sitting here, I don't have any veterinary background, but I was brought up on a farm. I do know a little bit about what goes on in slaughterhouses, but I'm not talking from the kind of knowledge that you are. So I'm very, very glad, Den, that you phoned in and backed up what I said and showed that Hussein was completely wrong in what he said.
I'm going to go to Bill in Colchester, a new caller to the show. Good evening, Bill.
Yeah, Nigel, it's just, why is it, Nigel, that we're not all of us, sieging Westminster? Cameron come out with this nonsense. He thought that we was all going to hop along like sheep and take us back into his scheme of destroying Britain's sovereignty. The people voted out. They voted out. They didn't care what the Europeans had to say. They didn't care about all the threats. They didn't care about all the terrible things that would happen to us. We voted out. It was a yes or no, because when these backbenchers started to say they wasn't satisfied with this section of the European Convention, and they wasn't satisfied with certain elements. He said, I'm getting bored with the whole thing, because he thought he was going to get a landslide. It gave us the opportunity, and we said we don't want it. We want out of it. What they're doing, Nigel, they've got total contempt for us. They've had contempt for the British public for years. They did when they had the MP's expenses. They thought, who are you to decide what our expenses are? They've lived eye on the hog by ignoring the wishes of the British people, and they just think that we're fools and idiots. We voted out. I don't see there's anything to debate, Nigel. We want out. We went across there. We got ourselves in terrible debt to fight a Second World War. We hadn't finished paying that instalment back until recently. Now they're telling us that
That's true, Bill. But, our political class were all signed up to the European project, and you're quite right to say the referendum result was a very big shock to them. So are you, I get the feeling you're beginning to get quite angry about this, Bill.
Nigel, they ain't going to... They're using every scheme they can to tell us we can't leave. The idea is soften us up for a second referendum so that they can then say, that's it, that's the end of it, you voted to stay in. It's disgusting what they're doing to us, Nigel. I'm surprised there hasn't been a rebellion in this country. I mean, what is it? Are the British people used to being browbeaten that they're frightened now? I mean, I think fear against them.
I think for the moment, Bill, I think that leavers are giving the government the benefit of the doubt, but I agree with you in the sense that I think that patience is beginning to wear a little bit thin. And so, Bill, presumably, you agree with me that Rees-Mogg and the other 61 backbench Tory MPs are exactly right to say to the Prime Minister that during the transition period, we've got to get on with the rest of our lives.
Yeah, there's people, Nigel, I'm sure you're aware of, believe in conspiracies that they're trying to make it so untenable that when Corbyn gets elected, this will all be undone. That's what they're after doing. I mean, that's the conspiracy theory that's going on around the political, sphere at the moment.
If the transition period, Bill, lasts much longer than is planned already, and the government today appearing to accept that it could go on for a long time, Chuka Ramuna saying perhaps they want it to be there indefinitely, you could get a Labour Party winning the next election and effectively keeping us part of the single market and the customs union. So there is a great risk. There is a great danger of that. Bill, I get the message. Theresa May, get on with it. Bill has had enough. He's angry. How does Steve in Rickmansworth feel? Good evening, Steve.
Hi there, Nigel. I feel the same as the last guy, very much so, but I've got a solution for all this. If we don't get what we want... You there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, if we don't get the 17.5 million of us that voted to leave, and now there'd probably be 18.5 million. Most of the people I know have changed their minds. If we don't get what we want, Nigel, it's quite simple. I, for one, will stop paying tax. I won't tax my car. I'll park anywhere I want. I will not uphold law and order. I will throw my litter everywhere. And they can see all the prisons of people like us. We'll bankrupt the country. It's as simple as that. It will be just like the IS in France.
So civil disobedience, Steve.
Yes, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I haven't got a criminal record, and I will get a criminal record. I honestly don't care. I feel this strongly about it. The guy before, and you've always been right, and so's Jacob. But no, that's my view. I will not pay any more tax. I will. I live on a canal boat. I'll probably leave half the locks open and empty the canal. I really won't care about what I do, and that's how strong I think about it. Seriously, Nigel. Honestly,
no, well, no. Listen, this is. I mean, in a way, this is not the sort of thing the British do very often, is it?
Well, you wait and see. If anyone's seen The Day of the Jackal with Edward Fox, a 70s film, that's what we're going to need. We're going to need hitmen to sort these people out, because I tell you now, I'm not going to rest.
Steve, I've got to stop you there. We can't allow the advocacy of hitmen to be aired without being challenged and shot down. But your point about civil disobedience is a very interesting one, because when Margaret Thatcher introduced the poll tax, we saw quite large-scale civil disobedience, and you know what? It ended the poll tax, and it helped to end Thatcher too, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Correct. Absolutely correct. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I've had shotgun licenses. I'm not a criminal. I've had a few parking tickets. That's about me. But I feel this strongly about it. And everybody knows what's going on. It's a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's absolutely true. Lord Adonis, Tony Blair, Nick Clegg, etc., Kenneth Clark, etc., 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 etc. They're all trying to keep us in, and the worse it goes for us, the more chance we'll stay in. But they just don't realise a lot of my friends feel exactly the same, Nigel. I'm not joking.
No, Steve, I wrote over a year ago a newspaper article in which I said, do not underestimate the anger of the silent majority in this country if you betray Brexit. So I understand what you're saying. I've just never heard anybody express it in terms as strongly as you just did.
I mean, if I'd been in charge of negotiations, here's what I'd have done. On the very first day, I'd have walked in and said, right, we're not going to impose any tariffs on goods. We want all political ties cut. We'll stay involved with, European arrest warrants as and when it seems fit. But otherwise, we want tariff-free access, and you can have tariff-free access to us. Thanks very much, and we'll be leaving now. And then they go, oh, hold on a minute, the U27, Barnier, sorry, wait, we have to start negotiating. And at which point we say, oh, no, we're not negotiating. We won't impose any tariffs. We're going to go outside and make that statement public. You decide among yourselves what you want to do and come back and let us know. And we will respond accordingly. No more information than that. And then you've got 27 EU nations who are no longer sitting there all agreeing with each other. Then you've got the Germans and the French and the Italians and the Poles and the Romanians go, well, hold on a minute, we've all got different things. We don't want tariffs on those. We don't want tariffs. We export to Britain. We don't want tariffs on that. We want this and that. We should have told them this is how it's going to be. Now, they don't have to agree. But at least when they do choose to impose punishment tariffs on us, their countrymen, their people will know that is a political decision by those countries. Now, we reap the benefits of tariffs that we can charge back. We just impose exactly the same tariff. But it's entirely their choice. If they want to do that, same with, the border of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. If you want to put a hard border in, that's your choice. You can do it. But we're not putting one in. It's up to you. We should have just been so much more forceful. And I tell you what, paying 100 billion, 40 billion, 20 billion. Fuck off, frankly. Fuck off. Not a chance. Not a single penny.
Mick has called to defend Bashar al-Assad, I think. Hello, Mick.
Hello, Sheila. I wasn't aware that I'd come on to defend Bashar al-Assad. I don't know enough about Bashar al-Assad to defend him.
But you don't think he's killing his own people?
Basically, no, I don't. I've actually got my friend Tom Duggan in front of me. He's actually in Damascus at the moment. He's married to a Syrian, and he's been reporting regularly from Damascus. And no, he doesn't tell the story that the Western media is telling. I'm surprised.
What story does he tell? Tell me his story.
Well, he tells me the story of how the terrorists have been regularly shelling Damascus, mutilating children, kids coming home from school, blown up with limbs taken away. And this is a very ongoing, regular occurrence at the moment. So should the Syrian government militarily defeat the terrorists? Well, of course they should. And are there going to be some civilian casualties? Probably there are going to be some civilian casualties, yeah. But so what? I mean, what war doesn't have civilian casualties?
Do you know how many casualties there are? Deaths?
I'm not.
I can tell you.
Pardon?
I can tell you if you don't.
Well, I think you've come up with a 300 figure today, yeah?
No, I mean overall in the 7 years of war, 400.
In the 7 years of war, the 7 years of war that if you are familiar with General Wesley Clark's very famous interview, you'll know that was planned by the US shortly. I can't remember whether it was before or after 9/11. Yeah, they're going to take out 7 countries, including Syria. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of. There's going to be dead people. Yeah, sure. But I've got a.
But you don't accept that Bashar al-Assad has killed most of those dead people.
Can you? Sorry.
You don't.
What you mean? Most of the people who have died in Syria
have been killed by Assad's forces. Yeah, the vast majority have. It's just a fact.
The vast majority of people in Syria have been killed by Assad's forces. I don't accept that. No, I don't.
The vast majority of those killed have been killed by Assad's forces.
Where's your source for that?
Observatory of Human Rights, the United Nations.
Observatory of Human Rights.
The United Nations.
Human Rights is actually a 3-bedroom house in Coventry with a PC in it. Yeah.
Who do you say is killing those people in Aleppo, in Homs, in? In fact, it's the anniversary.
A combination of groups such as Al Nusra Front.
But they don't have aeroplanes, Mick. They don't have an armed force in the skies, and it's the skies that are killing most people. It's the bombs coming down from the skies.
No, I think what's happening, Sheila, is, and very similar to Aleppo, what's happening is that as soon as Assad is on the cusp of a victory, the Western media decides it's time to ramp up the warmongering, yeah, and include Russia, of course, in the warmongering. So every time that Assad has been on the verge of a victory, which the West doesn't want, by the way, the West doesn't want Assad to bring about peace, because it's actually the West's agenda that this whole area is destabled. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I've been following this for 5 years, and I fell for it with Iraq, but fool me once, not twice.
All right, Mick, thanks for your call. Ali in King's Cross, hello.
Oh, yes, hi.
Hello. Just please feel free to continue, Ali. Make your point about Syria.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say that because we are close to this situation now, 7 years. I'm originally half Syrian, half Lebanese.
Mm-hmm.
And the war in Syria is really very complicated.
Yes, it is.
And it's very, very complicated. And America, number one, who's getting the full benefit out of what's going on in Syria. Of course, Russia, Turkey, Iran, all they have some benefit in Syria. But number one who's taking the benefit from Syria is the American. And I'm not trying to defend Bashar al-Assad, but Bashar al-Assad is trying to protect his country. I know that not all the people like Bashar al-Assad or not to his side, but we cannot blame him because already those troops and groups and militias here and there, you have more than 500 militias in Syria.
And do you, Ali, do you think it is the act of a true leader to knowingly bomb his own people? Because hang on, let me finish. Because in that area, he says, I don't know, you don't know, he says there are terrorists in their midst. You know, there are terrorists in London right now as we speak. Would it be okay for Theresa May to order the bombing of areas of London so that she got a couple of terrorists? And if she killed 150 kids and mothers at the same time, so be it. Because that's Assad's tactic.
No, we cannot just compare like London now with terrorists and Syria.
No, but answer my point. It's unacceptable, isn't it? It's not.
No,
it's not leadership. It's a war crime.
But we have to know where the news and where's the evidence and where's the truth coming from. I don't think.
Hang on. What is it you don't believe?
I don't believe. I believe in one thing. First, I believe I want the peace for whole Syria. And
we all want that. That's
people,
lovely. What do you not believe?
I see any child.
I know. I get it. I'm talking over you because I'm not interested in what you believe about that. You are claiming that the killings aren't happening.
Yes. Now you were focused. This program was focusing mostly in Ghouta, east of Ghouta, yes, and in east of Ghouta. As you aware and everybody aware, there is a few militia groups there. And even before now that this attack is going, they were fighting each other, blowing each other and killing each other.
Does any of that justify carpet bombing flats and hospitals?
No, I mean
yes or no, Ali? Yes or no?
It's not a carpet bomber. The carpet bomber, the American who does the carpet bomber, not the Syrian army. Syrian army, anyway, tried to free their own country from those terrorists.
Okay, I'm afraid you are an apologist for Bashar al-Assad, and I've had enough.
Louis is in Derby. Hello, Louis.
Hi, Iain. I just listened to your guy there from Bingham, actually. Yeah, I can understand where he's coming from. And I'm a Brexiteer myself. I think that we need to be really careful, though. I mean, there are so many people in the UK that could do what these European people could do.
Well, are there, though? Because if there were, why wouldn't they be doing it?
Because the English are, I can't say it, but lazy Fs, quite frankly, and they don't want to get up off their backside and work. And I think that
Is that really fair? I mean, I know people do say this.
People look. Universal credit, has come into place. There are more people working than ever before because universal credit is really a Tory, right-wing, hard way of get your backside out of bed and work. I mean, I know so many people who, my family background, Lincolnshire farmers. So many people now who were on like employment and support allowance long term, who have now transferred over to universal credit. They've had to get their backsides out of bed and work. And the more we do this, the more the Tories make cuts, the better. Because, we can't have people on benefits who are okay to work for years on end, which has been the case under Labour and, under David Cameron's government,
Well, even if you're right, and I think you exaggerate the case there, because yes, of course there are people who don't want to work. There always have been. There always will be. There's just some people who are built like that and just don't see the advantage of work. Now, I agree with you that we should be getting as many people back into work as possible. But at some point, and I don't know whether we've reached that point now, at some point that will come to an end. And I don't think you talked about Lincolnshire, that the thousands of temporary jobs that are needed at picking fruit in the summer and all the rest of it. You're not going to be able to fill all of those jobs through indigenous people.
Iain, you're right there, but look, how much longer will we need those people for the summer jobs? How much longer will we need people to pick flowers? Look at combine harvesters. Look how they've changed. I know they're 350k a piece now for a reasonably good one. But let's look forward. Let's
you can't use a combine harvester to pick strawberries and fruit.
Hang on. Let's look back. Let's look to the here and now. They are perfect machines. They do absolutely everything that you could possibly want and more. So let's look forward 10, 15 years. We're going to soon have machinery and artificial intelligence that will mean that we can pick flowers without people. We won't need the temporary people that we have now. And if they come over for temporary work, particularly Lincolnshire, where I'm based, and they take the work's there now in the summer, or the work's there throughout the year in the factories in Spalding, in Boston, that pork farms use and Morrison's use back over, These organisations, we're not necessarily with automation. We're not going to need them.
I agree with you that automation will mean that there may be fewer jobs, but I don't really see that in the fruit picking industry. I'm sad enough to remember the number plate of my dad's 1966 Massey Ferguson 500 combine, which I used to spend many a happy hour driving when I was a child. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go to Spencer, who's in High Wycombe. Hello, Spencer.
Hello. Yes, I wanted to come back to you on your comment you were making about the fact that perhaps it's people who don't know immigrants well and don't understand the culture, that may be the reason why they're so averse. Well, I mean, my case is quite different because I lived for 10 years in Central Europe and I speak fluent Czech. I am English. And I returned back here and then married a Chinese lady.
Yep.
So I don't really I am completely relaxed with immigration. But the problem, I have a problem with immigration, though, because these cultures, Chinese cultures, Czech cultures, Slovak cultures, Hungarian cultures, they are very, very, very different from our culture. In fact, all cultures are very different from all cultures. And I'm not completely happy that if we allow lots and lots of immigration into our culture, that it won't change our culture. But the main reason I voted, but there's also, that's less important than the practical issue of space. If we're going to have a green belt, we can't have immigration because we haven't got the space.
I'm going to say what I think everyone listening is thinking. If you're so concerned, why did you marry a Chinese lady? I mean, of course because you love her. I completely get that.
Because I'm not a racist, and I'm not a bigot, and I met her outside WH.
How romantic.
Yeah, it did turn out. Yeah, I mean, it's better than it sounds. But no, my wife is working in the NHS as a nurse. So I'm not against immigration per se.
But why do you think? Why do you think that?
Have some control.
Why do you think that all of these different cultures that obviously come into the country through immigration from all sorts of different areas? Why don't you have enough confidence that our own culture, if that's the expression we want to use, is strong enough to live alongside other cultures? I don't get the impression that most people in this country do feel dominated or threatened by different cultures. There may be some pockets in the country that do, but overall, I wouldn't say that was the case.
Well, you use the word live alongside, and I don't think it's great for civil society when you have enclaves. And the salad, the melting pot doesn't seem to work, and the salad bowl isn't really very satisfactory.
I think it works much better in this country than many others. If you compare our race relations here maybe to France, for example, I think most people would say that we do a lot better. But I do accept what you say about so-called, well, you call them enclaves, I would call them ghettos in some towns where people from a particular background just congregate and live alongside each other almost to the exclusion of everything else. That is not healthy. I don't know what government can do about that, if anything, but it's not healthy that has happened, I would say, predominantly over the last 20 years.
I agree with that. Yeah, there isn't really, I don't think there's really a solution except time. And in time, it will work. We are a nation mix of Britons and Romans and Angles and Saxons.
Well, we're all immigrants in the end, aren't we? Well, virtually all of us are. And perhaps, as the Cheddar Man shows, I mean, that was quite something, wasn't it? I know in my family background, going back to probably to the 13th century, one side of my family came over from France. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't know it for a fact, but I'm pretty sure of it. So, I think if we all look back in our family trees, we would find somebody who actually came here from a different country. And maybe we should make genealogy something that people should learn in school, because it might make us all a little bit more tolerant. Right, back to your calls on the immigration figures released today. Graham is in Bermondsey. Hello, Graham. What's your point?
Well, great last call. You said that the nature of our economy will need endless immigration. What is the specific and particular characteristic of our economy that means that an endless Ponzi scheme of immigration is needed?
Ponzi scheme? Why do you call it that?
Well, because people will go on and on having it, and immigrants will demand more and more services themselves, and so there will be more and more need for immigration. It's a well-known thing that there's a constantly required level of jobs that have been needed, and the immigrants themselves will require increased services. So we will just go on and on requiring more and more immigration. I think this
you would be right if you were ignoring the fact that it's been proven that immigration is a net benefit to the economy.
Well, I think that's highly debated. It's highly debated on the Migration Watch website, which I urge everybody to go to.
Hardly the most independent of sources, is it?
Sorry?
Hardly the most independent of sources.
Well, what is an independent source?
Well, I would say if you look at the Office for National Statistics and the various studies that have been done by academics all over the country, you will find proof that immigration is a net benefit.
Well, it may be in tax terms, but not in the services accrued and not in the effect on the environment and congestion. And I don't know of any report on the ONS that tells us that. There are certainly university academics, but famously university academics have been very wrong for many years. 364 academics, as you will know, wrote and said that Margaret Thatcher's Ignite policies were going to end in result in immediate recession.
So what level of immigration would you be comfortable with?
I think a significantly lower level, and I think it's vital that we manage to train our own doctors, nurses, and technical people. Already, there are only 16% of biological STEM graduates who get jobs at a highly skilled level. The trouble is that the training does not match the demands of the country.
Well, I agree with that, and I do think over the long term that's one thing that the government has got to make sure that they get right. Training in this country has not been good enough, and that's why we have a skills deficiency. But you must accept that while we have that, we still need immigrants to fill those jobs.
Well, we may do, but I don't see very much rapid action occurring to sort out the skill matching the appropriate training and skills to the lack of the demands for them.
OK, Graham, thank you. Clark is in Oxford. Clark, what would you like to say?
Hi, just a few points briefly. Firstly, I voted to remain, but I would like to see immigration in moderation to balance resource needs with skills demand. I don't know why James O'Brien, for example, would refer to people like me as closet bigots and racists, because I'm not. Anyway, point number 2 is that I would very much hope that where immigration is driven by poverty in other countries, that we're doing our bit to promote good governance and reduce poverty around the world. And I think we should be also tackling those problems at source rather than just saying, well, mass immigration is a solution to their problems, which it is not. And finally, I know why the EU loves open border immigration and uncontrolled immigration so much. It's because when you fill Britain with pro-EU voters, eventually will vote to join the EU as full members. But that's my position.
Well, you would be right if EU nationals had the right to vote in referendums and general elections, but they don't. They have the right to vote in local elections, which might make for some interesting election results in London, it has to be said, in May. Clark, thank you very much. Iain is in Stansted. Iain, what's your point?
The last couple of callers have just about summed it all up for me. I was going to use your farmers in Lincolnshire to use that as a cost-benefit bag of money to the country, and what they bring is really just fruit picking, and what they're not paying is enough tax to supplement our infrastructure so that we can play money into the infrastructure to make it best value. That's really what I was going to say. But the real problem, the whole crux of this, you've got the left wing, like you've got James in the morning, who cannot accept the right wing's argument, and you have the right wing who can't accept the left wing's argument. And until you get agreement on that, we're not going to get anywhere.
Why can't we all just get along, Iain? That's what you're saying, isn't it?
What it comes down to. if I used
Yes? Are you still there? Oh, I think, God, I was really looking forward to what he was going to say there. Right, let's finish off with a couple of texts and tweets. Ben says, this makes me furious. Most people are migrants. There are very few indigenous people left in the world. Well, I think that's happening. Well, we've just had that discussion, really, haven't we? I think you're absolutely right on that, and certainly in this country. Mr. Weppy on Twitter says, it's surely only a problem if they're leaving critical jobs and unemployment is going up. It's a gross simplification, I know, but little to concern here. Well, if you look at the level of unemployment, it's 4.4% at the moment. Now, it only needs to get down to about 2.5%, and that is classified as full employment. So it is quite clear that we do have a need for people to come to this country, whether they're from the EU or the rest of the world. And I can't really foresee a time, certainly not in the next 10 years, where that is going to change. And if the economy continues to be successful, then you would hope that, that we will always need people in this country from abroad, because, as I say, I think some of us can agree, it all broadens our horizons.
Excuse me. Yes, Donald Trump's words are, in fact, sticking in my craw. He is still talking. We'll keep an eye and an ear across what he's saying. So far, it's not worth much, to be honest, but we will keep a listening ear across. We've been talking about whether Tracy Emin, the artist, is right when she says young men have a better handle on equality with women and respect for women than older men do. Is she right? Martin has called from Croydon. Hello, Martin.
Hello.
You are a self-declared misogynist. Tell me why.
Well, it's so hard. It's so hard to say whether I am or not. I've written some notes here so I want to make best use of the time available.
Please do.
Am I a misogynist or not? Some people think I am, but I mean, some of my best friends are women, and I get on very well with women. But I think sort of, in a way, perhaps if you understand women better, you get on better with them. It doesn't mean you like them, because it's a bit like this Christian thing of hating the sin and not the sinner.
Tell me your sins anyway, Martin. Come on.
In my eyes, women are sinners. It's their group behaviours which are sort of getting worse and worse over the years.
What do we do? What are we doing that's so sinful?
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, and this will take ages to elaborate on, is lies and deception. Women believe themselves to be in an inferior position, a situation, and I suppose this has come about historically because of physical body strength and all this kind of thing, and so they tend to try and get their needs met, tangentially rather than directly, and this is slightly like the source of it.
Which needs?
Well, all needs. I mean, I sort of say, in a typical household. I mean, I think in talking about this, we should concentrate on domestic situations more than most.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of an abusive relationship that I'm trying to end. I went on holiday and came back and found my flat has had all its windows broken by this crazy woman, and the council are now saying if I let her into my home, they'll evict me. And this innocence game. I mean, even you. I mean, when you sort of then, even a few minutes ago before the news, etc., you said, oh yes, you generalised about men, and then apologised for generalising about men or something, and then said, and women too. And there was
no, I didn't generalise about men. Can I answer your accusation? Can I answer your accusation, or are you literally not going to let me speak?
No, I'll let you speak.
I did not generalise about men. I did the opposite. I placed a question that said, are young men X? Are young women X? Are young men compared to old men X, Y, or Z? And then I made the point that, of course, all men and all women aren't the same. That's central to my point. I think there are types of men and I think there are types of women.
Yeah, well, it was the point I wanted to make is about your tone of voice. When you corrected yourself, there was something like tone of voice, your tone of voice, which is, but of course, women are guilty too. I mean, can you not see the attitude in that tone of voice? Oh my God, shock horror! I forgot that women can be bad creatures too. Oh, shock horror! I forgot that women can be bad. Oh, shock horror! I forgot that women can be bad. And this forgetting that women can be bad is endemic in society.
Well, listen, thank you for pointing out my tone of voice. I'll work on it, and thank you for pointing out the things I've missed. I'll work on that too. But can I just make an observation that you don't sound like a happy man, Martin? You're having bricks thrown through your window by the women that you know. You're being told by the council not to let them back in. Why would you let them back in? And you seem to be scornful of women. Why is that? What happened?
Well, yes, I think more enlightened women, do sort of say, Martin, sorry, that you've had these experiences. Either you've been unlucky or you're making bad choices when it comes to partners. Now, this is the more mature response that you get from a minority of women. But I'm talking about Facebook. On Facebook, I've got 4,000 female friends. And the majority of them are not that enlightened, But I mean, the enlightened ones do say, sorry, you must have had some bad experiences with women, and either that or you're choosing.
And do you think that the bad experiences you've had with women have led you to regard all women as things to be feared?
Yes. And when you've had
you're generalising now about women, aren't you?
Well, yes, but I'm not saying that I didn't say that generalisation was a bad thing in the first place. Generalisation is part of logic. It's part of logic. It's part of reason. It's and by reason.
Yeah, but you accused me of it before, and I'm just pointing out that you've just done it yourself.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's context dependent. I'm not saying that generalisation is universally good or universally bad. In fact, look, you see, it was going on between men and women. It's going on between you and me right now. Women constantly try and invalidate men's positions. You know, men work very hard. They see there's serious problems between men and women that need to be cleared up. We do our best to clear those situations up. And every time we open our mouth, women put every single brain cell available onto the how to invalidate the man's point of view position.
But I'm not, Martin. I'm honestly not. I'm genuinely interested about why you feel the way you do about women. And let me remind you what I've done in the last 3 minutes of our conversation. I've invited you to call. You've called. I've asked you what your relationship with women is like, what your feeling for women is like. I've asked you why that is. I've asked you what's happened to you. Nothing I have done is invalidating your position. I'm inviting you to explain your position.
Well, I feel that what I'm doing is not working for you. And it's this two-way thing.
Oh, it is working for me. My job right now is just to get interesting calls on the radio. This is working for me, trust me.
Oh, good. Well, there's this two-way thing that you know, women. Well, this is where I don't want to generalise, because I think. I think it's the louder women that are being listened to, and it's the louder women that are the misguided, and the quieter women feel less empowered to speak up against the louder women than men feel empowered to speak up against the louder women.
Who are the louder women?
Oh gosh.
What do you mean when you say that?
I don't make a point of making a note of their names.
But what constitutes a loud woman? A woman who gives her view? A woman who doesn't always agree with you?
Oh dear, I feel you're picking holes.
I'm asking questions. That's all I'm doing, Martin.
This is something I'm complaining about. Is picking holes. Please try not to pick holes. Can we go in? See, I think what for man is a constructive direction is not necessarily a constructive direction for women, and vice versa. The biggest lie of feminism is that men and women are the same. You know, we are so different you wouldn't believe it.
I would believe it, and I don't think men and women are the same.
Well, I'm glad about that. In that case, we're.
But I don't think certain women and other certain women are the same either. Not everything boils down to gender.
Well, that's what I call dilution. That's what I call fudging.
That's what I call fact. But anyway.
Oh God, you see.
You see what?
Even we're having problems, aren't we?
No, I'm fine.
Oh God, well, I'm not. And if you don't work out why men are unhappy, then you will never, ever solve.
I'm asking you to tell me why. And when I ask you a question, you say I'm picking holes. I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door for you, Martin.
How long have we got? Because if we've got the rest of the time available, are you a good?
Well, to be honest, you've called for therapy.
Well, no, you've offered therapy. I mean, I'm trying to steer the conversation onto what I think is fertile grounds, and I feel blocked by you.
Oh, you're not blocked. I'm asking questions, Martin. How can that be blocking you? Oh dear.
Is something a fact because you have a vagina and you think it's fact?
No.
Right. Okay. Let's get that one sorted.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clear right from the start of the day, but if it needs reiterating, I'm happy to reiterate it.
Me putting it so bluntly, do you still not get the point?
No.
I think women are arrogant.
Oh dear.
Okay, let's give you a few more. Well, look, I saw a TV show the other day, and there's a load of women on the stage and a load of men in the audience, or something like that. And the women wanted to know why men thought they were crazy. You know, why do so many men think so many women are so really crazy?
Well, where was this event? What was it? What was it, a television programme, was it?
Oh, I think it was on YouTube, you know.
Oh, okay, YouTube, so not quite a television programme, yeah.
YouTube's great for this sort of thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well, I don't understand your tone of voice.
Well, when I say I can imagine, because it's a free-for-all, isn't it? So I can imagine it's great for this kind of thing. Well, it is a free-for-all, isn't it, YouTube? I think you'd agree.
Well, I believe that every communication vehicle has its ups and downs.
I agree.
Even your communication vehicle has its downsides, because I mean, if you've got a particularly bad blind spot, and as a result of that, you know, people like me, when we get anywhere near that blind spot, you know, can't get a word in edgeways, then your particular communication vehicle falls apart as well, doesn't it? I mean, I believe in communicating in many different ways.
No, I do. I'm not knocking YouTube. I'm just saying the reality is, compared to television, which is regulated, compared to radio, which is regulated, it's a free-for-all.
And I think there's a place for free-for-all.
So do I.
Oh, good. I mean, do you use YouTube much?
Not much, no.
No. But it's very good for this war of the sexes problem. It's very, very useful for the war of the perspective because people are, minority views are surfacing and being analysed in great detail by very clever people. People are damn sight cleverer than me.
And can I ask you, Martin, do you ever, with the war of the sexes in mind, to use your words, do you ever find yourself in the company of a woman and kind of forget that she's a woman and you're just in the company of somebody you like, you're chatting to her, she's chatting to you, you appreciate the same book or the same film, and you're not really focused on...
Yes.
Well, that's a good sign, isn't it? That suggests that the war of the sexes doesn't run too deep.
Are you setting yourself up as some kind of arbiter as to, healthy male behaviour and unhealthy male behaviour, and healthy female behaviour and unhealthy female behaviour? And and I wouldn't mind if that was the case. If the eye of scrutiny was equally or more so on women, what's wrong with the world as it stands? What's wrong with the world of the war of the sexes as it stands? Is the eye of scrutiny is more on men than women. Now I can assure you that as a man, I scrutinise everything I say before I say it, whilst I'm saying it, and after I'm saying it. The vast majority of women, if you ask them to repeat verbatim what they've just said, they cannot do it. There is no such thing as self-scrutiny. I mean, that's perhaps a bit of an extreme example, but I
think it's not true either, with respect. I mean, I literally just did it. I literally just did the thing that you say women don't do, which is to reiterate what I have said to you in the last few minutes. So I've literally just done what you say women cannot do.
Okay, well, I would put you right. If I thought you'd made a mistake in that area, I would put you right. Can
I answer your question as to whether I think I'm an arbiter of correct male and female behaviour? I'm not, of course, an arbiter of that. But I think I'm somebody with valuable views to contribute to that conversation, as are you. We all are, otherwise we'll never get it right, will we?
But just to pick up on another thing, you see, I used the word healthy and you used the word correct, you see, and made me think I'm hair splitting, but I don't think I am hair splitting. I mean, another thing, perhaps I'll just spew out a lot of things until you hang up on me.
I'm not going to hang up on you. I tell you what, I finish at 4, and I would happily speak to you until 4, Martin, but I can't because there are rules around these things, and we have to go to the ad break now, which is such a shame. I'll read some of the texts out that people have been sending, and they've been very much enjoying your conversation with me, as have I. Thank you, Martin, for your call. Martin in Croydon. Well, a lot of you have reacted very strongly to my conversation with Martin. I don't really know which text to read out. There are so many of them. Shall I just do a couple? Your interview with Martin from Croydon was the best radio interview I've heard in ages. I loved it, says Anne in Surrey. She doesn't elaborate on the reasons why, but some of you do. He's a misogynist, Sheila. He's scared of women, intimidated by them. He's in awe of them, and you were never going to do right by him. Thank you for the entertainment, though. As entertaining as always. Have a lovely weekend, says Chantal in Charing Cross. I will now. Thank you. One or two of you felt I was patronising to Martin. I really hope I wasn't. I knew that he was going to take a very strong stance against women, and I just wanted him to have his say. I was never going to agree with him, not on every point anyway. We agreed on one or two. On behalf of most men, I'm sorry for men like Martin, says John. I'm trying to find one or two that are more supportive of Martin. Let me do that. I must do that. I'm doing it, Martin. Don't panic. I'm doing it. There are some in support of you. Yes, I just switched on. Who is this brilliant man dealing with the patronising Sheila Fogarty? That's from Alan in Berkhamsted. There you go, Martin. That one was especially for you. Let's talk to Sarah in Maidenhead. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Sheila. I do not envy your job today.
Oh, you should. It's great.
I think you did fantastic. I was speaking to a researcher, and just as they put on, he said all women are inadequate. I was sitting on the end of the phone like, what?
It's awful. Imagine the world having to cope with our inadequacy all the time.
I know he's a moron.